So, yes, there's one last video. I was not really planning on doing one, but again, right? I understand that this is a very new sort of thing, right? That we're moving into. We're moving out of what we would think of as traditional theater into what we're thinking about as absurdist theater. And of course, as this is one of the biggest portions of this class, we do need to talk a little bit more about it. And so I do want to again talk a little bit more about Esslin and also address some of what you're going to see or that you already have seen in Waiting for Godot, right? So again, right, Esslin points out that the theater of the absurd is a name that was created for this type of theater, right? He is assigned it, other people is sort of kind of assigned it, right? And this book is an older book, right? It got a supplement later on that certainly we could look at, but we don't 100% need to. Because the essential is going to be here in that introduction and in this first chapter talking about Beckett, right? And as far as the Beckett chapter goes, I would like you to read that Beckett chapter, but you can do it now. You can do it next week. Both are absolutely fine. It would be helpful to read it now, at least the portions where they talk about Waiting for Godot, so that you can get an idea, maybe a little bit more about what you're going to be heading into. But this video also may serve as a little bit of an introduction. Esslin talks about, again, the theater of the absurd as a showing, not telling. that this is a theater that is, okay, the equivalent of if you enjoy music, right? Music with lyrics can go in two different directions. You can do sort of a Bon Iver style lyrics, where Justin Vernon's voice in Bon Iver, for the most part, and the lyrics that he has, for the most part, are nonsense, right? They don't really make much sense. He isn't really telling you a story in those lyrics, right? But some people may listen to that or hear that statement and say, but he is telling a story and it happens to be, this and this and this, right? Because they are interpreting sort of these lyrics, and they're interpreting the way that that these lyrics strike them, right? I think that's an important and possibly more accurate idea. Back when I was a student here, Sigur Rós was a thing, an Icelandic band, and the lead singer Jonesy often sang in what he referred to as Hopelandic, which is not a real language, right? But it is, right, making his voice into more of an instrument. And the emotion or the attachment that you feel to that music, it has nothing to do necessarily with those lyrics. It has to do with what you feel and how you're experiencing it, right? I think Bon Iver, Sigur Rós do the same thing that sort of absurdist theater does, which is that, is it about the play itself? Is it about the actions and the dialogue? In part, sure. There is some importance there. I think there is some importance there in sort of seeing what are these people saying, how are they describing, but they are not giving you clear, transparent things, right, to look at. Now, Beckett will, of course, as a contrarian, tell you that the play means exactly what he meant it to mean. The play means exactly what it means. These characters say exactly what they say, and that they feel the way that they feel, and this is a pretty transparent process. Yes and no. Again, right? If this all sounds like this is way too pretentious, this is way too frustrating, I understand, right? Sometimes we like to just experience things the way that we experience them. And I think that can be done, right? I think that a lot is made of, we can interpret. We can overinterpret. We can go out and say, we understand everything that there is to say, right? I mean, I went and got a PhD in this stuff, right? It's kind of ridiculous, right? That I would be looking at this and saying, but it doesn't really mean anything, because it does and it doesn't, right? Again, the most important thing you're going to be running into with these is that, as Esslin says, we are showing, not telling. in these plays. You will get a certain amount of telling. You'll get a certain amount of dialogue. There's some very beautiful dialogue in here. But do not overly fixate on the dialogue and on what's going on logically on stage. I think that when we enter into the space of the theater of the absurd, we have two big options, right? To really feel out, right? Do these characters, what is their emotional state, right? When we look at Vladimir and Estragon, right, in Waiting for Godot, why are they so committed to this Godot person, and in getting out and in meeting him, and what is it that they're looking for, right? We never get an explanation, and that's okay, because I think we can also just sort of interpret, how does it feel to be in that sort of situation? If you've been told, please wait here, somebody will be with you shortly, and you don't know if somebody's showing up, right? I think that that's kind of what we're doing, right? So, right, our Esslin introduction is going to give us a lot of information about, why we're doing this, right? But watching one of those plays is also going to give us a lot of information about what we're doing, right? As far as interpretation, talking through what these plays mean and what I want you to get out of these plays, again, I'm going to give you, when we get into, the next week, right, looking at Endgame, and the following couple of weeks when we talk about Ionesco and humor and the rhinoceros and the way that we can read The Bald Soprano. I'm going to give you sort of an interpretation that I've have, and that some people have, and some of the reviews that have been talked about, and some of what the people say about them. But the more important thing is going to be looking at this from the perspective of existentialism, absurdism. We've done this with plays that we sort of say make sense. How do we do that with plays that we sort of look at and say we're not sure that they make sense? At this point, right, when we dive into these particular plays, the ideas of existentialism and absurdism are going to still matter. But where they matter more for us in these particular plays is going to be in the way that we understand that distance between what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. What answers we're given and what answers we aren't given. What we see people doing and whether or not they feel guilt for something that we've never seen them do, or whether or not they're trying to justify their lives or their existences, right? I think that we are going to see this and look at this from the point of view of somebody who's got these philosophies in mind and is sort of laying them on top of a character, right? And saying, how do I see them responding to, this universe that has nothing to say to them, or to the responsibilities that they know they've had and failed at, or that they believe that they deserve better, right? I think those are going to be the important questions we're going to be looking at as we look at these next few plays, right, and finish out this semester, right? So, again, if you have any questions, if you have concerns, if you have frustrations with this, please let me know. Again, there's one other thing I do want to put out, and I will probably put it into the next week's module, but feel free to look at it ahead of time. I'm going to be talking to you about what we are doing for the midterm. So, I will be back.